The war room screens showed another defeat. Red markers blinked across the star map as 3 more systems fell to the Dravik swarm. Crystallis watched her people die in real time, her crystalline body refracting the harsh light into painful rainbows across the metal walls. She had commanded fleets for 20 cycles. She had won battles through superior tactics and courage. But the Dravik were different. They bred faster than anyone could kill them. Their ships appeared in waves that never ended. Every battle was a numbers game, and the numbers always favored the enemy. The Galactic Assembly had issued the conscription order 3 days ago. Every member species had to send forces. The Velok sent 50 warships. The Nefri contributed 30 cruisers and their best navigators. Even the small Krull colonies pooled resources for a dozen fighters. Everyone understood what was at stake. If the Dravik won, the entire galaxy would become their feeding ground. Then Earth responded. 1 destroyer. 200 personnel. That was all. Crystallis felt something she rarely experienced. Anger. These humans had joined the assembly only 2 years ago. They claimed to be warriors, survivors of countless conflicts on their violent homeworld. Yet they sent barely enough forces to crew a single outdated ship. The message was clear. Humanity did not care about galactic survival. The Council assigned the human contingent to Threshold Station. It was a supply depot on the edge of contested space. Useful but not critical. When the Dravik came, and they would come, Threshold Station would buy time for more important positions to prepare. The humans would die there. Crystallis felt no guilt about this. They had volunteered for irrelevance. The human ship arrived without ceremony. It docked at the lower level where cargo haulers usually attached. Crystallis did not go to meet them. She sent a junior officer with basic orientation materials and security codes. The humans were on their own. 2 hours later, a human female appeared in the command center. She wore a dark uniform with minimal decoration. Her skin was brown, her hair pulled back tight against her skull. She moved with economy, no wasted motion. "Captain Reeves," she said. "Requesting briefing on station defenses and enemy patterns." Crystallis turned from the star map. Up close, the human looked tired. Lines marked her face around the eyes and mouth. But those eyes were sharp, constantly moving, analyzing everything. "You have access to all tactical files," Crystallis said. "Study them if you wish. The Dravik will arrive in approximately 70 hours. When they do, you will follow my commands exactly." Reeves nodded slowly. "Understood? Permission to deploy reconnaissance assets around the station perimeter? Our sensors already provide complete coverage." "Yes, I saw the specs. Good equipment. But we prefer redundant systems." Crystallis gestured dismissively. "Do what you wish. It will make no difference." Reeves left without another word. Crystallis returned to preparing the evacuation schedule. Threshold Station held 15,000 personnel. She could save perhaps half of them if the defense bought enough time. The humans would be among the casualties. She had already accepted this. Over the next 2 days, Crystallis watched the human crew work. They moved through the station in small groups, always quiet, always purposeful. They placed devices at seemingly random points around the exterior. When Crystallis checked the sensor logs, the devices barely registered. They were simple communication relays, or so the specifications claimed. The humans also studied the tactical database obsessively. Reeves and her officers spent 8-hour shifts reviewing every Dravik battle in the past year. They built models, ran simulations, argued in low voices. Crystallis observed them once through the command center windows. They seemed focused not on how to fight, but on how the Dravik fought. "They always attack from the same vector," one human officer said. His name was Hayes. "Always," announced with scout ships. "Always target power systems first." "Predictable," Reeves replied. "They win through numbers, so they never learned subtlety." "Neither did anyone else out here," Hayes said. "Look at these battle recordings. Every species lines up and shoots until someone runs out of ships." Reeves smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "They have no idea what war actually is." Crystallis felt a flicker of curiosity. What did the humans know that the galaxy did not? But she dismissed the thought. Bravado and mystery would not stop the Dravik. Only firepower mattered, and the humans had almost none. On the third day, long-range sensors detected the enemy fleet. 47 capital ships, 300 support craft. The display showed them advancing in a wall formation, engines burning bright, announcing their presence to everyone in the system. Crystallis activated station-wide alert. All personnel to evacuation stations. Defense forces to combat positions. We hold for 6 hours, then withdraw. The human destroyer remained docked. Crystallis opened a direct channel. Captain Reeves, you will undock and take position at Grid 7. Prepare to engage on my command. Silence answered her. Captain Reeves, acknowledge. More silence. Crystallis checked the docking clamps. The human ship was still attached. Its power signature was dropping. Life support only. Everything else going dark. Reeves, what are you doing? Finally, a response. The human captain's voice was calm, almost casual. Getting ready. You should evacuate non-essential personnel now. This will get loud. You are powering down. You will be defenseless. Not defenseless. Just invisible. The human ship went completely dark. It vanished from sensors as if it had never existed. Crystallis tried every scanning frequency. Nothing. 200 humans. And a fully armed destroyer had simply disappeared. The Dravik fleet was 2 hours away. Crystallis had lost a sixth of her defensive forces before the battle even started. She began the evacuation, her mind racing through contingencies. None of them adequate. She did not understand what the humans were planning. She would not understand until the Dravik started dying in ways that should have been impossible. But that revelation was still ahead. Waiting in the darkness where human warfare lived, the visible war was about to meet the invisible enemy. The galaxy would never be the same. The Dravik fleet moved through space like a living organism. Ships arranged in perfect geometric patterns, communication pulses linking every mind into one vast consciousness. The swarm mind calculated trajectory, target value, and acceptable losses. Threshold station would fall in 4 hours. Casualties would be minimal. Victory was certain. Certainty was about to die in the command center. Crystallis divided her attention between evacuation status and the approaching enemy. Transport ships were loading personnel as fast as the docking bays allowed. Her defense fleet held formation between the station and the Dravik. 23 warships against 47. The mathematics were brutal. Status on the human vessel? She asked. Her tactical officer, a young Velok named Radiance, checked the sensor grid. Still no contact. The docking clamps register mass, so the ship is physically present. But we cannot detect any activity. They ran, another officer muttered. Shut down and ran like cowards. Crystallis wanted to believe otherwise, but what other explanation made sense? The humans had hidden when courage was needed. She pushed the thought aside. Survival required focus, not anger. The Dravik fleet entered weapons range. Their scout ships spread out in standard reconnaissance pattern. The swarm mind was checking for defensive emplacements, shield frequencies, and escape routes. Everything proceeded exactly as it had in 100 previous battles. Then the first ship died. The lead, Dravik capital vessel shuddered. Atmosphere vented from a dozen points along its hull. Internal explosions rippled through the engineering sections. Lights flickered and died. The massive ship began to tumble, its course becoming erratic. What happened? Crystallis demanded. Did we fire? Negative. All our ships report weapons cold. No energy signatures detected anywhere in the defensive grid. Then what killed it? Radiance worked the controls frantically. Unknown. Sensors show no weapons discharge, no missile launches, no spatial anomalies. The ship just started exploding from inside. The swarm mind registered confusion. This was new. New was dangerous. The Dravik fleet tightened formation, shields at maximum. Every sensor sweeping for threats. A second capital ship lost propulsion. Its main engines simply stopped functioning. Emergency systems failed to engage. The vessel drifted helplessly while the swarm mind tried to understand what was happening. Third ship's weapons grid experienced catastrophic failure. Energy feedback destroyed every cannon and missile port. The ship became a floating liability, blocking lanes of fire for the vessels behind it. Crystallis watched in amazement. Are they malfunctioning? Did their systems fail? Impossible, Radiant said. Not 3 ships simultaneously. This is an attack, but from what? The Dravik swarm mind reached the same conclusion. An invisible enemy was killing them. The revelation triggered something the swarm had never experienced before. Fear. They tried to fight back. Energy weapons fired in all directions, hoping to hit something, anything. Missiles launched on random trajectories. Ships broke formation and began evasive maneuvers. The perfect geometric patterns dissolved into chaos. More ships died. A capital vessel's life support failed, suffocating the crew. A cruiser's navigation system went haywire, sending it crashing into a support ship. Explosions bloomed across the fleet like deadly flowers. They are retreating, Radiant said, voice filled with disbelief. The Dravik are actually retreating. It was true. The swarm mind made a decision no Dravik fleet had ever made. They ran. Ships turned away from Threshold Station and burned their engines at full power, fleeing from an enemy they could not see or understand. In 15 minutes, the battle was over. 12 Dravik ships destroyed or crippled. The rest scattered and gone. 0 casualties for the defense force. 0 shots fired. Crystallis stood frozen, trying to process what she had witnessed. Her entire understanding of warfare had just been shattered. Wars were won by superior firepower and courage, but this was not firepower. This was something else entirely. The human destroyer powered up. It appeared on sensors as if materializing from nothing. The ship undocked and moved into open space, its weapons still cold, its shields barely active. A communication came through. Captain Reeves, her voice still calm, still casual. Threshold Station, this is Reeves. Area secure. We used minimal ordnance. Requesting permission to pursue the enemy fleet and gather intelligence. Pursue? Crystallis could barely form the word. What did you do? How did you destroy those ships? We did not destroy them. We disabled them. There is a difference. Our sensors detected nothing. No weapons fire, no missiles, nothing. That was the point, Reeves said. You cannot shoot what you cannot see. Crystallis felt her crystalline structure resonate with frustration. Explain now. Later, the enemy is disorganized. This is the best time to learn their communication protocols and fleet structure. But I need authorization to leave the station. Every instinct told Crystallis to demand answers immediately. But her tactical training overrode emotion. The enemy was vulnerable. Intelligence gathering during chaos was basic strategy. Permission granted, she said. But when you return, you will explain everything. Understood. Reeves out. The human destroyer accelerated away from the station. Within minutes, it had vanished from sensors again. Gone like a ghost, hunting an enemy that thought themselves the hunters, Crystallis canceled the evacuation order. Personnel returned to their stations in confusion, asking questions she could not answer. Her officers demanded to know what had happened. The council was already sending urgent messages, requesting full reports. She had no reports to give. She had no explanations. She had only witnessed something impossible. An invisible war fought by people who seemed to understand that being unseen was more powerful than being strong. Radiance approached carefully. Commander, the crew is afraid. They do not understand what the humans did. Neither do I, Crystallis admitted. But I intend to find out. She pulled up every second of the battle recording. She studied the Dravik ships frame by frame, looking for clues. There had to be evidence. Energy signatures, spatial distortions, something. She found nothing. The human attack had left no trace except the destroyed ships. It was as if ghosts had reached through reality itself and torn the Dravik apart from within. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, Captain Reeves and her crew hunted their prey. They had changed warfare in 15 minutes. The galaxy had no idea what was coming, but the Dravik were learning. Fear was spreading through the swarm mind like poison, and fear would make them dangerous in new ways. The Assembly Council chamber buzzed with overlapping voices. Representatives from 40 species argued, demanded, and theorized. Screens showed the Threshold Station battle from every angle. Scientists presented analysis. Military commanders offered speculation. Nobody had real answers. Crystallis stood before them, her crystalline form reflecting the chaos around her. She had submitted her report. She had shared every recording. The facts were simple. The explanations were impossible. "Order," the council speaker announced. The Nefri administrator floated at the center of the chamber, her gaseous form glowing with authority. "Captain Reeves of Earth has arrived?" She will address the council. Reeves walked into the chamber. Another human followed her. He was tall and moved with predatory grace. His dark eyes scanned the room constantly, evaluating threats that did not exist. "Captain Reeves?" the speaker said. "Explain what happened at Threshold Station." "We won," Reeves said simply. "0 friendly casualties. Enemy fleet routed. Station remains operational. We know the outcome. We want to know the method." Reeves gestured to the human beside her. "Commander Hayes will present our tactical approach." Hayes activated a holographic display. Images appeared showing ships covered in strange coating. "This is stealth technology. The coating absorbs and redirects sensor waves. To enemy detection systems, our ship does not exist." Murmurs spread through the chamber. A Velok admiral named Bright Edge stood. "This is deception." Honorable warriors announced themselves before battle. "Honorable warriors die," Hayes said. "We prefer survival." The display changed. It showed human figures in dark suits covered with equipment. "These are boarding teams." While our ship remained hidden, small craft delivered personnel to enemy vessels. They infiltrated through maintenance ports, waste systems, and docking bays. Once inside, they sabotaged critical systems. The chamber erupted. Half the representatives shouted in outrage. The other half leaned forward with desperate interest. Crystallis watched Reeves carefully. The human captain stood silent, letting the chaos wash over her. "You sent soldiers inside enemy ships?" Bright Edge demanded. "Without declaration of combat?" "This violates every law of warfare." "Your laws," Hayes corrected. "Not ours. On Earth, war has no laws except survival. We learned to fight this way because fighting your way meant extinction." Reeves stepped forward. "The Dravik are winning because everyone fights them the same way. Big ships shooting at big ships? Numbers versus numbers. You are playing the game they designed. We changed the game." The speaker raised a tendril for silence. "This council must decide if such tactics are acceptable. But first, we need to understand their effectiveness. Captain Reeves, can you teach other species these methods?" "Some species," Reeves said. "Not all. Stealth requires patience, discipline, and comfort with deception. Some of your warriors would struggle with the concept." "We volunteer," Crystallis said. She surprised herself by speaking. But logic overrode pride. The Velok wished to learn. Bright Edge turned to her. "You would abandon honor for these shadow games?" "I would abandon nothing," Crystallis replied. "But I will learn every weapon available." "The Dravik do not care about our honor. They only care about our extinction." The debate continued for hours. Eventually, the council voted. 30 species in favor, 10 against. Human stealth tactics would be tested. 50 volunteers from across the assembly would train with Earth Special Operations Forces. If successful, the program would expand. Reeves accepted the decision with a simple nod. "We will need 6 weeks. Choose your volunteers carefully. This training will break many of them." The first volunteers arrived at a human facility on Earth's moon. They came expecting warrior trials. They found something much harder. Prism was a Velok combat specialist. His crystalline body naturally refracted light in beautiful patterns. Human instructors wrapped him in dark cloth and taught him to dim his glow. He spent 6 hours lying motionless in shadows while instructors walked past. His muscles screamed. His pride burned worse. Whisper was in the Free Scout. Her gaseous form could slip through small spaces. Humans taught her to control her luminescence, to move through ventilation systems, to solidify just enough to manipulate tools. She discovered her species was naturally suited for infiltration. Nobody had thought to try. Razor was a Krell hunter. His insectoid patience was legendary. Humans gave him a long-range weapon and taught him to wait. 3 days in one position. No movement. No sound. Just waiting for the perfect moment. He excelled. The training was brutal. Volunteers learned to hide when every instinct screamed to fight. They practiced moving silently through total darkness. They studied enemy patterns until they could predict movements. They learned that killing was the last option, not the first. Hayes personally trained each group. You are used to courage, he told them. Charging forward, facing your enemy directly. That courage will get you killed in stealth operations. The bravest thing you can do is nothing. Wait in the dark. Let the enemy pass. Strike only when success is certain. Some volunteers failed. They could not overcome their cultural training. They went home with no shame. Stealth was not for everyone. Others adapted. They learned. They became something new. Warriors who fought from shadows. Soldiers who won by never being seen. The first joint operation came on the 6th week. Intelligence reported a Dravik breeding complex on a moon called Vorjith 4, millions of embryos developing in biological tanks. Destroy the complex, cripple the next generation. The assault team assembled. 10 humans. 5 Velok. 3 Nefri. 2 Krell, all trained in methods the galaxy had never known. Reeves addressed them before deployment. This mission will determine if stealth warfare works on a galactic scale. Succeed and we change the war. Fail and thousands of species will die fighting the old way. The enemy does not know you are coming. Keep it that way. The team boarded a modified transport using stolen Dravik identification codes. They headed for Vorjith 4 while the breeding complex continued operations below, unaware that invisible death was approaching. Crystallis watched from the command ship in orbit. She had volunteered to observe, to understand. She still struggled with the concept of invisible warfare, but she could not deny results. The battle would be won or lost in darkness, and the galaxy would learn if shadows were stronger than light. The transport ship drifted toward Vorjith 4 like debris. No active engines. No navigation lights. Just another piece of wreckage in a system full of destroyed vessels. The Dravik sensors swept over it 3 times and registered nothing dangerous. Inside, the assault team waited in darkness. They had been motionless for 6 hours. Their suits recycled air and managed heat signatures. To the universe outside, they were already dead. Hayes checked the orbital patterns one final time. The guard rotation changes in 20 minutes. That gives us a 4-minute window when the western sector has minimal coverage. We land there. Prism flexed his wrapped hands. The cloth irritated his crystalline structure, but it kept him invisible. 4 minutes is insufficient for full deployment. Which is why we will not deploy fully, Hayes said. We go in small groups. 2-minute intervals. By the time they notice anything, we will already be inside. The transport entered atmosphere. No braking thrusters. No course corrections. Just falling like a stone toward the surface. At the last moment, emergency landing jets fired. The ship hit ground hard enough to crack hull plating. Dravik security teams rushed toward the crash site. They expected scavengers or malfunctioning automated systems. They found an empty transport with nothing valuable inside. They did not find the assault team. The operatives had exited through emergency hatches during the descent, using the ship's sensor shadow as cover. They landed separately, scattered across 2 kilometers, and immediately went dark. Whisper was first to move. Her gaseous form slipped through ventilation grates that were designed to prevent physical entry. She spent 3 hours mapping the facility's interior, memorizing guard patterns, identifying critical systems. The Dravik never knew she was there, When the full team assembled at the rally point, they had complete intelligence. Hayes studied Whisper's data and revised the plan. The breeding chambers are 3 levels down. Heavy security. But the environmental control is accessible through maintenance tunnels. We should destroy the embryos directly, one Velok operative said. No, Reeves said through their communication link. She was monitoring from orbit. I am changing the mission parameters. We reprogram the genetic sequencers instead of destroying them. Silence greeted her decision. Finally, Prism spoke. Explain. Our orders were sabotage. Destruction is temporary. They would rebuild. But if we alter the genetic code slightly, introduce a delay in their swarm mind connection, the next generation will be vulnerable without knowing why. It will take them months to identify the problem. Hayes nodded slowly. It is more effective than an explosion. More cruel, too. Yes, Reeves said. War is cruel. But this cruelty ends the war faster. The team moved toward the breeding complex. They crawled through waste disposal systems. They hid in shadows while guards passed within arm's reach. They disabled security sensors using techniques that left no trace. Razor excelled at this kind of patience. His Krell biology did not experience boredom like other species. He could wait forever if needed. When a guard stood near his hiding spot for 15 minutes, Razor simply remained still. Eventually, the guard moved on. Never knowing death had been inches away, the team reached the genetic sequencing laboratory. It was a massive chamber filled with tanks containing millions of embryos. Biological fluid bubbled and cycled. Dravik technicians monitored development stages. Whisper entered first through an air vent. She solidified just enough to access a computer terminal. Her gaseous tendrils interfaced with the system, downloading security protocols and genetic templates. The process took 8 minutes. Any Dravik looking at the terminal would have seen normal operation. Hayes and 2 human operators entered next. They moved during a shift change when the chamber was briefly empty. They found cover behind equipment banks and settled in to wait for Whisper's all-clear signal. The genetic reprogramming took hours. The team had to alter millions of embryos simultaneously without triggering any alerts. The changes were subtle. Just a small modification to the neural development sequence. The embryos would mature normally. They would join the swarm mind. But their connection would be delayed by 3 seconds. 3 seconds meant nothing to an individual. But 3 seconds across millions of warriors meant chaos. Orders would be received late. Coordination would fail. The swarm mind would fragment without understanding why. The sabotage was invisible. The Dravik would not detect the changes until the altered generation reached maturity. By then, it would be too late to reverse. Upload complete, Whisper reported. Genetic modifications implemented across all breeding tanks. System logs show no anomalies. Hayes signaled the extraction. The team began moving toward their exit points. They moved slowly, carefully, maintaining the discipline that had kept them alive. Then something went wrong. A Dravik sensor. Technician noticed an atmospheric anomaly. A tiny heat signature where Prism had been hiding. The Velok's natural temperature was slightly higher than the ambient air. The difference was microscopic. But the technician had been trained to notice microscopic things. Alarms activated. Security teams rushed toward the breeding chambers. The facility entered lockdown. Blast doors sealed. Automated weapon systems powered up. We are compromised, Hayes said. Execute emergency extraction. The team abandoned stealth. They moved fast and loud now. Explosive charges destroyed blast doors. Weapons fire echoed through corridors. The Dravik finally saw what they were facing. Soldiers who appeared from nowhere. Warriors who killed with precision and vanished before retaliation. The swarm mind experienced something new. These were not the honorable warriors of the assembly who announced their presence and fought fairly. These were predators. Invisible predators who had been inside the breeding complex for hours before anyone knew. Fear spread through the Dravik consciousness. If the enemy could infiltrate their most secure facility, nowhere was safe. The swarm mind began to doubt. To question. To fracture, the assault team fought their way to the surface. They lost one operative, a human named Rivera. She held a corridor alone so others could escape. The Dravik overwhelmed her position. She died buying 30 seconds. The survivors reached the extraction point. A stealth shuttle appeared from nowhere, exactly on schedule. They loaded in and disappeared into the sky before Dravik interceptors could respond. In orbit, Crystallis received the reports. Mission successful. Genetic sabotage complete. One casualty. Acceptable losses, but she felt the weight of those words. Acceptable losses. Rivera had been invisible to the enemy. Now she was invisible to everyone. Dead in a war fought from shadows, the Dravik breeding complex continued operations. The embryos developed normally. Nobody detected the changes spreading through their genetic code. The next generation would be born flawed, and the swarm mind would never understand why the invisible war had claimed its first blood. More would follow. Much more. 6 months transformed the galaxy. Supply convoys vanished without sending distress signals. Command centers went dark at random. Queen nodes died in fortified chambers that should have been impenetrable. The Dravik lost 12 systems not to battle fleets but to enemies they never saw coming, 40% of. Assembly forces had adopted stealth doctrine. Training facilities operated on 15 worlds. Species that had fought with honor for thousands of years learned to kill from darkness. The war was changing. Victory seemed possible, but so was something darker. Bright Edge stood before the Assembly Council with evidence collected over months. Video recordings, testimony from disturbed operatives, reports of actions that went beyond military necessity. The Council must see what stealth warfare has become, he said. His crystalline structure flashed with righteous anger. We are not fighting honorably anymore. We have become something worse than the Dravik. The screens showed operations gone wrong. Captured Dravik prisoners executed for operational security. Civilian infrastructure destroyed not for tactical advantage, but to spread terror. Psychological warfare that involved broadcasting recordings of swarm mind members dying slowly. Screaming in ways that infected the collective consciousness with trauma. These are our warriors, Bright Edge continued. Trained by humans, acting in our name. They torture. They terrorize. They have forgotten why we fight. The council chamber fell silent. Some representatives looked away from the screens. Others watched with sick fascination. War had always been clean before, direct. Now it was something else. Reeves sat in the observation section. She had been promoted to Admiral 3 months ago. Shadow Fleet operated under her command. She watched the evidence without expression. Crystallis sat beside her. The Velok commander had become Reeves's closest ally, but now she turned with questions in her eyes. Did you know? Crystallis asked quietly. I suspected, Reeves said. Stealth operations attract a certain type of warrior. People comfortable with moral ambiguity. Not everyone can handle that responsibility. Then why did you not stop it? Reeves met her gaze. Because we are winning. Those 12 systems? Thousands of lives saved. How many moral compromises is that worth? There must be limits. There are. I enforce them when I can. But war makes monsters of everyone, Crystallis. You just notice more when the monsters work in darkness. The council voted to investigate. A tribunal would review all stealth operations. Questionable actions would be judged. Warriors would face consequences. Reeves accepted the decision. She knew it was coming. She had been preparing for it, but the war continued. And the war brought complications that investigations could not address. The Dravik bioship appeared near human space without warning. It drifted powerless, life support failing, sending automated distress signals. Assembly patrol ships approached cautiously. Inside, they found a single Dravik. It had severed itself from the swarm mind. The genetic modifications from Vorgeth 4 had taken effect. This Dravik experienced the 3-second delay as an eternity. While the swarm mind issued orders, it processed them alone. In that isolation, something impossible happened. Individuality emerged. The Dravik called itself Silence. It requested asylum. It offered intelligence in exchange for protection from its former collective. Hayes interrogated Silence personally. The Dravik sat in a containment cell designed for hostile prisoners, but spoke with desperate cooperation. The swarm mind is fracturing, Silence explained. The delay creates doubt. When orders arrive late, we question if they were intended for us. The collective cannot function with questions. Why leave? Hayes asked. You could have stayed hidden in the swarm. Because I felt fear. Individual fear. The swarm mind is hunting invisible enemies everywhere. It sees conspiracies that do not exist. Dravik kill each other over suspected infiltrators. The paranoia is worse than your actual attacks. Hayes processed this. The genetic sabotage was working better than planned. But Silence offered something more valuable than confirmation. I can give you the location of the Prime Hive, where the original Queen Mind resides. She coordinates everything. Kill her, the swarm collapses. Reeves studied the intelligence with Crystallis. The location was deep in Dravik space, heavily defended. Reaching it would require everything Shadow Fleet had learned. It is a trap, Crystallis said. The Dravik have studied our methods. They expect us to try something like this? Of course it is a trap, Reeves agreed. But it is also an opportunity. The war ends there. One way or another, you will send your operatives into certain death. I will lead them myself. If this goes wrong, I should be the one to pay for it. Before the mission could launch, Bright Edge confronted Reeves with evidence. Recordings of operations where her teams crossed lines that should never be crossed. Prisoners tortured. Civilians killed. Actions justified by military necessity, but violating every ethical standard the Assembly held. You will answer for this, Bright Edge said. After the war, when we have time for justice? Reeves looked at the evidence. She did not deny anything. Yes, I will. If I survive the mission, I will stand trial. You have my word. Why should I trust your word? You have proven that honor means nothing to you. Because I am tired, Reeves said quietly. I have been fighting in shadows for 6 months. I have made decisions that will haunt me forever. When this war ends, I want someone to judge those decisions. I need someone to tell me if they were worth it. Bright Edge studied her face. The human looked older than 6 months ago. Lines had deepened. Her eyes held something broken. If you die on this mission, you escape judgment, Bright Edge said. Then I will do my best to survive. I owe that to the people I sacrificed. The Shadow Fleet prepared for the final mission. 200 ships. Assault teams from 15 species. All trained in methods that had won the war but cost something precious in the process. They moved toward the Prime Hive knowing it was a trap. Knowing many would not return. But also knowing that victory waited in darkness if they were willing to pay the price. Crystallis joined the fleet. She had learned human methods. She had become something between light and shadow. Whatever happened at the Prime Hive, she would witness it. The galaxy held its breath. The invisible war was about to become very visible indeed. The Shadow Fleet approached the Prime Hive with every stealth system active. 200 invisible ships carrying thousands of warriors trained to fight from darkness. Sensors showed empty space. Reality held an armada, Reeves commanded from the lead destroyer. She had personally approved every aspect of the plan. Infiltrate quietly, reach the Queen Mind. End the war with a single strike. Clean, efficient, invisible. The universe had other plans. Warning alarms activated across the fleet. Stealth fields flickered and failed. Ships became visible against the black of space. Hayes checked the systems desperately. Broad-spectrum energy pulses, he reported. They are flooding space with radiation across every frequency. Our stealth coding cannot compensate. The Dravik, learned, Crystallis said from her position at Tactical. They studied our methods. The trap revealed itself. The asteroid belt surrounding the Prime Hive erupted with ships. Hundreds of Dravik vessels had been hiding using crude stealth technology copied from human techniques. They surrounded the Shadow Fleet completely. The swarm mind broadcast a message, not words. Just raw, triumphant emotion transmitted on every channel. We see you now. We learned. You taught us fear. Now we teach you death. All ships, combat formation, Reeves ordered. The plan had failed before it began. The surgical strike had become a conventional battle. Numbers and firepower would decide the outcome. The Dravik had more of both. We cannot win this fight, Bright Edge transmitted from his command ship. We should retreat. No, Reeves said. We end this today, one way or another. The battle exploded across space. Stealth ships fought like traditional warships. Warriors trained for infiltration used conventional weapons. Everything the Shadow Fleet had learned became irrelevant. The Dravik pressed their advantage. They had been preparing for this moment. Every counter-stealth measure they had developed went active. Every tactic they had learned from losing battles was applied. The invisible predators were now visible prey. Hayes led the assault team toward the Prime Hive in a shuttle that was taking heavy fire. The stealth approach was gone. They flew straight at the target with shields barely holding. This is insane, Prism shouted over the sound of impacts. We cannot reach the hive like this. We have to, Hayes said. Look at their fleet formation, Whisper understood first. They are so focused on countering stealth that they weakened their direct defenses. They expect infiltration. They are not prepared for a direct assault. Hayes smiled grimly. Exactly, they learned to fear shadows. They forgot to guard against light. The shuttle hit the hive's docking bay at full speed. It crashed through defensive barriers that were designed to stop subtle infiltration, not kinetic impacts. The assault team deployed into corridors where Dravik warriors rushed to respond. This was not stealth combat. This was direct warfare, loud, visible, brutal, everything the humans had taught the galaxy to avoid. It worked. The Dravik swarm mind had conditioned itself to detect hidden threats. When enemies announced themselves openly, walked directly toward objectives, and fought without deception, the collective consciousness experienced paralysis. This did not match any pattern. This was not how the invisible enemy fought. Hayes and the team reached the Queen Mind's chamber. She was massive. Consciousness coordinated billions of Dravik across dozens of systems. Killing her would collapse the swarm mind into chaos. Hayes raised his weapon. One shot would end the war. He did not fire. What are you doing? Prism demanded. Take the shot. No, Hayes said. We talk. The Queen Mind focused on him. Her presence pressed against his consciousness like physical weight. She was old. She was powerful. She was terrified. You taught my swarm fear, the Queen Mind projected. We knew violence. We knew struggle. But we never knew fear until you came. And now your swarm is eating itself, Hayes said. The paranoia is destroying you faster than we ever could. The genetic modifications, the doubt. Your collective is fragmenting. Yes, so you have one. Fire your weapon. End this. Hayes lowered the gun. I'm offering an alternative. Withdraw to your core systems. Stop the expansion. We stop hunting you. The war ends. Why would you offer mercy? You have shown none before. Because I am tired of killing, Hayes said. Because this war has cost both of us too much. Because maybe, just maybe, we can choose something different than mutual destruction. The Queen Mind considered. Her massive consciousness processed probabilities and outcomes. Continuing the war meant slow collapse through internal paranoia. Accepting peace meant survival, even if reduced. The swarm mind will accept these terms, she said finally. We withdraw. We remember. We will not forget what fear tastes like. In orbit, the battle stopped. Both fleets received orders to cease fire. Warriors trained for different kinds of war found themselves floating in space surrounded by enemies who were no longer shooting. Reeves sat in her command chair, watching the ceasefire hold. It was not victory. It was not defeat. It was exhaustion choosing survival. The Council will want to continue, Crystalis said. Push the advantage. Destroy them completely. Let them try, Reeves said. Without stealth doctrine, conventional warfare favors the Dravik. They know that. We know that. This is the best outcome we could hope for. The Shadow Fleet returned home. The war ended not with triumph, but with compromise. Both sides had learned too much about cruelty. Both sides had changed in ways that could not be reversed. Reeves stood trial as promised. The evidence against her was extensive. The verdict was complex. She was stripped of her admiral rank. She accepted full responsibility for every questionable action. But the council also acknowledged that her methods had saved countless lives. The Shadow Corps was established as a permanent institution, heavily regulated, commanded by warriors like Brightedge, who understood both the necessity and the danger of invisible warfare. Stealth would remain a weapon, but it would have rules. Ethics, accountability. Years passed. Captain Reeves returned to Earth. She trained new recruits at the Shadow Corps Academy. She taught them stealth tactics. She also taught them philosophy. Ethics, the difference between what you could do and what you should do. On the anniversary of Threshold Station, Crystalis visited Earth. They walked through forests where humans had once hunted by hiding in shadows. "Do you regret teaching us to fight this way?" Crystalis asked. Reeves watched young recruits practicing camouflage techniques. Velok learning to dim their glow. Nefri learning to slip through ventilation systems. Krell learning perfect patience. All of them learning to be invisible. "I taught them to survive," Reeves said. "Whether they use that knowledge wisely is their choice. That is what makes them free. The ability to choose between light and shadow, to understand both, to use both when necessary, and to know when darkness has gone too far." Above them, stars shone across a galaxy where warfare had changed forever. Species that had fought openly for millennia now understood the power of being unseen. Some used that power responsibly. Others did not, but the choice existed. And in that choice lay both danger and hope. The invisible war had ended. The lessons remained. For better and worse, the galaxy had learned what humans had always known. Sometimes survival required darkness. But surviving in darkness meant remembering what light looked like. The war was over. The reckoning had just begun.